Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, November 4th, 2024, and this is a regular meeting of Moscow City Council. Tonight, we have special guests from the Latah County Girl Scouts who are going to lead us in the pledge. So if they would all come up front here. Come on up.
Right on, Sammy.
You can tell your Girl Scouts love civic duty. This is one of the biggest turnouts of any girl that we did.
All right.
So. Hi, girl, the flag's behind you.
Okay, someone gets the lead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So good.
Good job.
So good. Stay put. Don't go away. Stay there.
You are.
Well, I'll just real quickly jump in as we're going to do pictures. We got handshakes going on. You might think there's an election tomorrow. Some of these girls might be running for us here. Moscow City Council, Mayor, thank you so much. Citizens, thank you for honoring our Girl Scouts. My name is Brian Newberry. I'm the CEO of Eastern Washington, Northern Idaho. And we have Day of the Girl. It's October 11th. This is actually at the same time tonight, we have a Yakima Day of the Girl going on as well. So 4 hours away, Girl Scouts are being honored by their city council in Yakima. But I like to come here because I like to celebrate public officials. We have an election tomorrow. We know how tough politics is. I celebrate you for preserving our republic. So to all of our city officials, girls, audience, let's give a round of applause to our city officials. I served on a city school board. I know how hard serving is. So I appreciate very much. But we're here to celebrate your voice, girls. And the voice is going to be spoken tomorrow by the American people. But you know what? We want to hear the girl voice as well. So back in 2012, the Day of Girl was established by the United Nations. And this is the 12th year that we've established it. So girls, as you walk out of here tonight, look at all these great citizens and know that they appreciate your voice and they want to continue to hear it, especially as you get older and older and older. You very well could be sitting in one of these seats here before. I just want to leave everyone with some good news. You got some of the best Girl Scouts in America here right now. We started our new year top 5 in the country for retention, which means these girls are sticking around. That's out of 110 councils. Means we're doing something right out there. And it means that these Girl Scouts are making the world a better place. But Amy Ball's over there. Thank you, Amy, for leaving this great service unit. Just about 2 weeks ago, not far from here, we celebrated highest awards, which is our gold, silver, and bronze awards. You had some of the most highest awards from middle schoolers, the silver award, that I've ever seen from our council happen. And that means that they're going out during Take Action projects. Most of these projects dealt with diversity and increasing diversity awareness within the Moscow community. They were beautiful projects, and your Girl Scouts did that. So I want to celebrate these girls for caring about highest awards, caring about gold, silver, and bronze, but ultimately caring about making the world a better place. I already gave the bad news to the city council members. In my rush today, I forgot cookies. I am so sad. I am so sad about that. I will make it up. I will get them here before Thanksgiving so you can have Thanksgiving treats as you head on home, have pumpkin pie and Thin Mints. But I do deeply apologize for that. But I want to finish off tonight with one last piece of news. We were able, because of our growth, we are growing, we are able to keep cookies at $5 a box next year. So all the citizens out there will get to enjoy that as well. Thank you, Moscow, for honoring these girls. He's going to hand you out some pins here, girls. We're going to take some pictures and they can do city business. Thank you, Moscow, for honoring the Day of the Girl.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We want pictures.
So feel around and anybody take pictures. Come up front. To get
Can come up
closer.
here if you guys want to.
You want to come up here and we'll stand behind you? Come up here.
Yeah, this is much better.
Yeah, this is way cooler. Here, yeah,
Right behind the.
yeah, stand behind the whole thing.
Yeah.
Way better.
Yep, you keep on coming over.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
No, I'm like exactly with this.
I understand.
I'm exactly with this.
You have the voice now, girls.
Smile.
Don't be shy in the back. Come on up.
Come on, parents. That's right.
So proud of these girls. Should we say Thin Mints on 3? 1, 2, 3. Best cookie in America.
It looks cute.
Great job.
I was smiling like this. Go that way.
Go this way. Each one of you. Actually, I think we're
That's right. Oh, good. You got one to wear. Yep. Nice. What's your name again, girls? Yeah, goodbye. Yep, you're doing nice. Thank you. Nice. Good job. Y'all are great.
I didn't wait to see the second motion.
Gotta restart. Hold on.
I didn't realize that.
My stand wasn't big enough for all of them.
I did not.
All right.
Thanks, parents. Bye, parents.
Thank you for coming. Thanks for leading us.
Is this yours?
I think mine got.
Oh, this must be Haley's. Oh, is that yours? Okay, that's Haley's?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then we're done.
Yes.
It was fun.
Can't beat that.
Thank you very much, Moscow City Church.
Thank you.
In the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back with you.
I'll be back. Very good.
All right. Thank you.
We'll just kind of
That's how
hum
I
the
just
Jeopardy
stood the
song
whole
here
time.
for a few minutes. Is
Around.
I couldn't help it. I think I like the cookie idea.
I was just having a good time.
And I'm tempted to just a motion to adjourn and just call it good. Like I'm filled up. Like that was
Second.
Yeah.
All my tree people out there. See them, I see
should we
them.
grab the door just in case? Yes.
There we go.
There it
Okay,
is.
good.
All right. Moving briskly onward. Next up is the consent agenda, and the consent agenda consists of items that have been previously reviewed by the Administrative or Public Works and Finance Committees and are generally of a routine or non-controversial nature.
I move we approve the consent agenda. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, Drew,
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Bryce.
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda is gone. Next up is mayoral appointments, and I have none this evening. Moving on to public comment and the mayor's response period, and for the next 15 minutes, in 3-minute chunks, we invite the public to come up to the podium, state your name, where you live, and then in 3 minutes, tell us what's on your mind, what's of concern, just generally, what about Moscow do you want to tell us? As long as it's not on tonight's agenda, nor pending before the Board of Adjustment, nor the Planning and Zoning Commission. Any takers tonight? Man, that whole preamble was just wasted.
But it was good.
It was good.
the tree commission's coming up.
That's true. The Tree Commission is next. So annual Citizens Commission report, starting off with Dave Schott. Hello, Dave.
Well, good evening. Mayor Betke, members of council, thanks for having us once again. And so I'd like to welcome back Ellis Eifert. He's the chair of our tree commission. We also have many of our tree commission members in the audience tonight as well. Ellis and his family have lived in Moscow since 2011 after Ellis graduated law school. Ellis is a estate planning attorney and avid outdoorsman who inherited the love of nature from his father, a self-proclaimed tree hugger. So Ellis and his wife, Hope, have 4 kids, love living in Moscow, and spend much of their time in the Idaho wilderness, or at least as long as their schedule allows. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ellis for the Tree Commission annual report. Thank you.
Thanks. Ellis, welcome. Tell us about
Good
trees.
I'll tell you. Thank you, David. Yeah, so I'm really excited to come give you guys the annual report. I know I probably sound like a broken record whenever I get up here, but honestly, I just have to recognize my fellow commission members because honestly, without their work, enthusiasm, and their expertise, we really wouldn't get as much stuff done as we were able to. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump in and make sure I can. All right, there we go. So this is quick introduction. Myself, David Rock, my very competent vice chair. Also, his alias is Mr. Tree. Pamela Brunsfeld, our secretary, Mary Jo Hamilton, Zena, Jean, and Nick round out the rest of our commission. And so this is the tree commission. These are the people behind everything that's getting done. So I'll start with our mission statement. The mission or purpose of the Moscow Tree Commission is to plan, establish, and help conduct a comprehensive community forestry program for the city of Moscow. By ensuring safe, healthy trees, the community forestry program will enhance the quality of life for all that live, work, and visit in the city of Moscow. Really, what we do is we're making sure that we've got safe, healthy trees, and that this community forest is an asset to our community. Our structures and duties, we have 3 primary duties. One's advisory, one's extra quasi-judicial, and the third is educational / programmatic, however you want to say that. I don't know the correct word for that. Commission is responsible for providing advice to the mayor and council as to the preservation, protection, and management of the community forest. That's our advisory role. Our quasi-judicial role is commission is charged to hear appeals from licensed, certification, and permit applicants who are aggrieved of some action taken pursuant to procedures set forth in the Moscow City Code. I have never had any of these happen during my time on the Tree Commission, and as far as I know, it happens very rarely, so we don't have to deal with that much. I'd say the majority of our time is spent in the third, which commission is responsible for developing and implementing educational materials and programs addressing community forestry issues. The vast majority of our time is spent in this. Some of our time is spent in the advisory role as well, but most of the time we're doing educational outreach programs, things like that. All right, moving on. Moscow's community forest, a green infrastructure. What is a green infrastructure? It's the physical components of interrelated systems providing commodities and services essential to enable, sustain, or enhance societal living conditions. Basically, what that means is we've got a community forest that provides benefits, infrastructure to our community. If we have a healthy community forest, you get a lot of these benefits. It'll infer these benefits onto our community: public health, traffic calming, reduction of energy, water conservation, stormwater mitigation, enhanced public space is pretty obvious to all of us, urban wildlife, enhances business, increased property value, and carbon sequestration. So these are all benefits that we get from having a healthy community forest, which is what we at the Tree Commission are tasked with trying to manage and advise on management for. So moving on to the next thing. All right, so this is what we did this year. These are our 2024 accomplishments. As usual, we do our Arbor Day celebration. This year is at Gormley Park with West Park. The West Park students and teachers were delightful. It was a great time. We planted 3 ginkgos and 3 crabapple trees. We also had the annual seedling giveaway. We gave away Burr, Gamble Oak, Blue Spruce, and Smooth Sumac. And as usual, we gave away a lot of those at the farmer's market. For the 31st year in a row, we're a Tree City. And for the 23rd, we got the Growth Award. And I'm pretty certain that next year you'll hear how we are Tree City USA for the 32nd year and get a Growth Award for the 24th. So I hope that happens since I said it. So some other stuff. Well, we had 2 farmers markets. This year we did a fall seedling giveaway. This was facilitated by a very generous donation from Nils Peterson. He wanted to help facilitate planting more trees in Moscow, and also we wanted to promote planting trees in the fall, which is generally the best time to do that. We're at the September utility billing newsletter. We had 265 seedlings at this fall giveaway, which was Canaan fir, Rocky Mountain juniper, western larch, sugar maple, chokecherry, and northern catalpa. We also approved a tree donation policy. Essentially, you are able to donate a tree to Moscow. So members of the public can do that. It is $1,000, and you'll get a tree. It'll get planted by city staff and everything like that. We're working on the 2026 Arbor Day seedlings, and we also have been doing some work on the downtown tree management plan. Several members of our commission have a lot of good thoughts on that and been spending some time thinking about it. So those are some of the things that we accomplished in 2024. I also just wanted to highlight some of the things that we've done in prior years just for the public to know, one of which is the Heritage Tree Program, which was one of my favorite things that the Tree Commission ever did. This is a program where you can nominate trees based on the type of tree, historical value, size, certain traits. And you can go on the city website and they've got a application. There's certain criteria you have to fulfill. But we still get nominations for this program. So just so the public knows, this is out there. It's a really cool program. There's some really cool trees on it. You can actually go and look up a map of the trees. If I remember, yeah, you can look up a map of the trees. So there's some pretty cool trees. There's a giant sequoia here in Moscow as well. So you can find that. You can go look at it. So anyway, also in the utility newsletter, we will run articles in 2021 and 2023. We talked about pruning for large shade trees. And in 2024, we talked about planting trees in the fall. So just some good information there as well. So these are some of the things that this is kind of a good sampling of what we do in general, and also an update on what we did this year. So yeah, again, I have to thank my commission members, and I have to also thank David Schott, who's very, very capable, and also thank Gina for her. We're basically Gina's pets. So, so yeah, any questions or anything?
Truth.
Just a comment, I think we all appreciate everything the Tree Commission does along in conjunction with Parks and Rec, but it's good to remember always that every tree in this town has been planted by somebody at some point. We used to be a prairie, there were no trees. So you look around and say, yeah, thank you, our predecessors, for doing the right thing. And it's up to us to keep doing the right thing by way of continuing with the Urban Forest Program. So thank you and the Tree Commission very much for all you do.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, we have the festivity of the awarding of the costume contest from the farmer's market. And I'm going to turn it over to Amanda and just go down there and shake hands as everybody moves through.
We do have a brief presentation.
Please.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So every year, not every year, sorry, the last 5 years, the farmers market has been doing the annual Halloween costume contest. And we started this tradition to celebrate the end of the farmers market season in a festive manner. It actually started in, 2020. And I just do want to do a brief chronicle of the Halloween costume contest. So we just wrapped our fifth costume contest. 2020, the market had a very dismal year, but we ended on Halloween proper, and we pleaded and begged to do a socially distanced costume contest, which was approved, and it was successful, and we've been doing it ever since. On average, we're seeing about 100 individuals participate in the costume contest with a total or an average of 60 entries. And this is just a fun way for us to do a family-friendly event and get people out on the last farmers market, which sometimes can be cold and a bit wet, but this last year was amazing. And so the Sprout entries, which are always adorable, is the most popular costume entry group, I would say, by far. All the costumes are judged on creativity and execution and whether or not their theme is apparent to the judges. And so I would say very adorable, very hard to choose. I'm really glad I'm not a judge, and I thank the Farmers Market Commission for leading the way in emceeing and judging this event. And dogs do certainly participate just off of the sidewalks, never in market thoroughfare proper. but we had both a Sprout individual category and then a Sprout group category. Just 3 entries for our Sprout group category. But our individual winner, and I don't know if they're here this evening, is Summit Eldred, and they were the ice cream cone or monster ice cream cone. And all of the prizes were donated by market vendors who indicated that they were interested in donating this. And then the photography services were also provided by a market vendor as well. So professional photos is always great because staff iPhones, sometimes not so much. We also had the best Sprout group, which was, I always learn new pop culture references. So Gravity Falls apparently is a children's cartoon, correct? Okay. So these lovely individuals dressed up as PB&J cartoon characters from Gravity Falls. And then moving on down the line for our other remaining categories, we had junior entries. These are children who are 13 years or older. Is that right, Laura? I think that's about right. Again, just a handful of folks that participated in this particular entry. And I believe the winner is here this evening. This is, there's a rock band called The Residents that they dressed up as. And they are receiving quite, I think, a great treat of free drink from Palouse Juice, some honey sticks, and a bundle of soap and lip balm from one of our local farmers. Adult entries. We still have a steady amount, has declined in the last couple of years, but a good amount of adult entries that come through every year. That person is here this evening, who dressed up as the Big Top Clown from Irish Spike's Beer Mustard Hot Sauce. I think they brought it to life very well. And then we had the pair dynamic duo entry. They have picked up their prize already. They will not be here this evening. Only 3 entries in this group, but very strong entries nonetheless. However, Roger and Jessica Rabbit took the cake on that one. And then our family group entry, again, small this year, however mighty. And so here we have an eclectic all ages entry group. I am partial to the top left photo, if anyone recognizes that lovely gentleman and beautiful Ewok. But the winners were Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas, who also picked up their prize earlier this week. Sometimes we do bump up against bedtimes with this presentation. But really, truly a fun, festive way to end the wonderful 2024 season. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we do have a photo opportunity, and we would love at this time to have the winners come up and receive their trophies made by a local ceramic vendor. Paradise Creek Pottery made these delightful pumpkins. And again, we try and source as many things from our vendors in-house as possible to support them as well and get their name out in the community. But happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we'll move on to photo opportunity.
I think that Wookiee was robbed.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the Ewok.
Cute.
Yeah, I know.
So cute.
I know. It was tough. Okay, I would invite the winners up to receive their trophy from Jamie Hill, the chair of the Farmers Market Commission, and a photo op.
Nice work.
Nicely done.
Nice work.
Truly, truly awesome.
Done.
Oh,
Art
Wow.
never misses
that's
a
a good
beat.
one.
Yeah.
Never misses a beat.
I'll grab the other end.
Oh, nice. I love that.
Looking great.
All right, which one of you is more responsible? More responsible.
Well, you should get to
Nice work.
Our junior.
Well done.
There you go, my friend. Very careful with that one.
Good job to the parents.
Yeah. You don't really need that
Terrifying adults. There you go.
That's a good call.
Mhm. Nice work.
Good job, Henry.
Congratulations.
I don't think our sprout individually made it, so we'll just on down the line.
Nice work.
Would you like a couple pins? Can I give you a couple pins? Art forgot that.
Oh, yes.
Final comment is that opening day of 2025 is May 3rd, I believe.
May
Thank you.
3rd
I'm not mistaken.
already.
Amanda, thank you for another successful season, you and your team.
Yes, thank
yeah.
you. Thank you to Jamie Hill for emceeing. Also, it's her last year being the MC. So we do have an opening on the commission that's coming up at the end of this year. So, yeah.
Nice.
Nice, good. Probably with the dog that won't go into the market.
Well, we've got through all of the fun stuff for tonight.
Yeah, everything's
Thanks,
done
Jamie.
now.
Back to business. So next up is a public hearing, an ordinance amending Moscow City Code Title 4, Chapter 6 regarding landscape buffer yard requirements with Mike Ray. And the way a public hearing works is the public hearing is opened. Staff presents the facts pertinent to the case, and city council can question staff at that point. After that, we will hear from public testimony in favor, public testimony in opposition, and then public testimony of a general nature. And subsequent to that, further questions may ensue of both the public and testimony or the staff. At that time, the public hearing closes and we move on to council deliberations and conclusion. So public hearing is now open.
Thank you, Your Honor, Council. I thought this was maybe the most exciting item of the night. Just me.
Mike, it is. It is.
Would you like a pin?
You got cookies?
Thank you. So before you tonight, we have a public hearing. This is an ordinance the Planning and Zoning Commission's been working on for the last year. It's in regards to landscape buffer yard requirements. And just like to go through kind of what an idea of a landscape buffer yard is. A vegetative area consisting of trees and shrubs that is intended to provide a buffer between uses of different intensity. So this kind of gives an example of what that is. So upon development, they're required to install landscape buffer yards. You can see uses of varying intensity. You have a multifamily apartment complex here, the center of your screen, Moscow Building Supply here to the north, and the Hillcrest Motel, former Hillcrest Motel there to the west. So upon development of these properties, they're required to install a landscape buffer to help mitigate the impact of those different intensities. And how we apply that is just different zoning configurations. So the R4 zone is the multifamily zone, and then the commercial zone is motor business for those commercial properties. And we have a matrix within the code that we implement the landscape buffers with. So the intention of the buffer yard requirements is to provide a visual buffer between uses of different intensity, reduce erosion, stormwater runoff, protect property values, and eliminate potential land use conflicts by mitigating adverse impacts from dust, odor, litter, noise, glare, lights, signs, buildings, or parking areas. And we haven't updated these for some time. And we just wanted to go through and update the requirements and also provide some flexibility in the application of the standards. And so this is the current matrix where we apply the standards. You can see the zones of the proposed use at the top of your screen, and then the zones of the adjacent property here to the left. You go down, and then whatever the zones correspond, that would dictate what landscape buffer yards required. A, B, and C, they vary in intensity, but there's some noticeable errors on this matrix. We don't have there's a blank column here. There's zones that don't exist, BN, here and here. That means neighborhood business. It's just transverse there. And then motor business, there's an error down here on this portion of the matrix. So it's really just updating that to our current style, which is in the zoning code that we implemented the land use table with, as far as some other tables that we currently have. And this is the illustration that provides A, B, and C for the landscape buffer yards. You can see this is maybe photocopied numerous times. And this is the way it currently exists within our zoning code. So just wanted to go through, update the matrix,
really no changes here. We also had the addition of a zoning district that didn't exist at the time, urban mixed commercial. So we've added that there as well. And then updated the illustrations for A, B, and C. One change that happened here was that they really range from width. So this is 12 all the way up to 16 feet in width, which you could go down to 10 feet if you incorporated some irrigation. Almost everybody that utilizes this ends up going down to 10 feet in width. We really just care that the plantings that are installed are end up surviving. And so really no impact for the irrigation system. Brings us to the section for buffer yard requirements. There's a purpose statement. And then the buffer yards required. So any type of new development being reviewed on the zoning code. And we have a reference to the required buffer yard table. And then buffer yard standards. Just really a slight modification here. So buffer yard requirements vary depending upon the intensity of both zoning district or the proposed use. And it previously says the neighbors. So what would be more appropriate is the zoning district of the adjacent property. So just making that slight modification there. And then the location section that all buffer yards should be located in the perimeter of a lot or parcel upon which development occurs, extend from property line to property line. And there's a section on plant size requirements. So making this really consistent with what we have with our parking lot landscaping section. So there's canopy trees, understory trees, and shrubs. The industry standard is really just 1.5 inch caliper for canopy, 1.25 inches for understory, and then just varies in gallon size depending upon whether the shrub's perennial, deciduous, or evergreen. Next, the section existing vegetation. So existing trees or other vegetation may be used to satisfy the buffer yard requirements. And we have a section on fences and berms. So there's a fence requirement within the type C landscape buffer, and you're allowed to eliminate that with the incorporation of a 3-foot berm. Arterial streets, where the arterial street separates the properties, you're really able to downgrade the buffer. So if a C's buffer yard is required, you can go down to a B. If a B is required, you go down to an A. So if an A is required, really no option to downgrade in that. So the commission's proposing that if an A buffer yard would normally be required, the A buffer yard may be reduced to 5 feet in width there to allow a little bit of flexibility. Then preparation of a buffer yard plan. The commission wanted to incorporate reference to native plantings and xeriscaping are encouraged for water savings, reduced maintenance, reduction in fertilizers and pesticides, increased pollination, and a reduction in yard waste. And then time of completion, really we allow some flexibility, but they have to be installed within 12 months. And then it's the continued obligation of the property owner for the maintenance of the buffer yard. So if any of the plants dies, they would be required to replace those. And typically we do an audit every 5 years for commercial multifamily projects. Then we propose to add a section about consideration of adjacent uses. So in circumstances where the proposed use of a property and existing use of adjacent property of similar intensity and compatibility, the zoning administrator shall be permitted to allow deviations in buffer yard standards, including the elimination of the buffer yard if deemed appropriate. So there's been numerous circumstances over the years, and this is one of the highest examples here, the old MZ building. I think it's Lightcast now. When they redeveloped this property, it's currently under the industrial zoning designation. There's R4 residential properties there to the west of Almond Street, recycling center to the north, and then various other industrial commercial uses across Jackson Street, the highway to the east. They were required to install landscape buffer yards. And it makes sense, obviously, for the residential development to the west to have a landscape buffer yard. But the use doesn't really reflect the zoning district, right? It's industrial zone. This is our historically agricultural industrial area. And the use was permitted underneath that zone. And so they didn't need to rezone, even though the use doesn't really reflect what the zoning district is. And so just wanted some flexibility in the future to be able to work through some of those scenarios. This is the landscape buffer yard on Almond Street. Rightly so, they ended up utilizing a 3-foot berm instead of the 6-foot tall fence. And so that pretty much a visual amenity with the landscaping on that side instead of the 6-foot tall fence up against the sidewalk in the residential area. This is on C Street. So type A buffer was located here, but once again, we're buffering, an office building from the recycling center parking lot. So probably a little bit of flexibility there. And then on the east side, they ended up controlling and developing a parking lot across Jackson Street. Really, we're transitioning to more central business in this location and want that building up against the street for more of a pedestrian-oriented environment. And so if you were to install a 10-foot wide landscape buffer in this location, really doesn't make a whole lot of sense and reinforce that urban feel and character of this area. And then another example would be the Animal Clinic and Hospital on Troy Highway. You can see directly across the street, we have Paradise Creek and Paradise Path. And then you look at the zoning configuration, and technically there'd be a landscape buffer required if this property were to be redeveloped, just because you've got a motor business zone that extends over in this area, even though that's undevelopable area. And then Farm Ranch, obviously with the path as well as the creek in that location. And so just kind of a couple examples of where that paragraph that we inserted in the code will provide some flexibility in the application of these standards. So on July 10th of this year, the Planning and Zoning Commission conducted a public hearing upon the proposed ordinance and recommended approval to City Council. And staff's recommendation for the council is to consider public testimony and approve the ordinance under suspension of the rules, requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and then it may be read by title and published by summary. And I'd certainly try to answer any questions that you had.
Counselors.
I'll say something. I don't have a question. I was thinking about this amazingly enough on my way over here. I don't know why it popped into my head. It just did. And I thought, it's things like this that the commission takes the time to go over the requirements and go over. I mean, I know planning and zoning, they go over them so well. And it amazes me that I learned so much in the meeting before this, administration, public works, whichever one I'm on. Anyway, whichever one it came through. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of stuff that most people just don't ever think about. So I'm grateful that y'all think about this and think about
Sounds more deliberative.
what goes through me. I know, I said I didn't have a question. I said I had a comment.
Save the comments
Okay, will do.
for the end. That's
Sorry.
deliberation.
I'm sorry.
part. Yep. So hearing
I
nothing
have no
else, any public testimony in favor? Public testimony in opposition? And public testimony of a general nature? Okay, this time the public hearing closes and council begins its deliberation. Carry on.
No, that was it.
I would join my fellow councilwoman in her deliberation. I think it is definitely a topic that a lot of people don't think about. And I appreciate the commission's willingness to dive into that and keep both the urban, walkable nature of things, but then also I'm a huge plant fan. So I like that you're kind of keeping up the city's green plants and things like that, infrastructure as well. I love that you gave us a couple of examples of where the flexibility of this code can be illustrated. That's huge. And I really appreciate that we have that kind of a code, at least in this area. I think it's important. My question, can I ask a question now? I thought of it as right as you were closing the thing. Has there ever been a moment where someone has, and maybe this is new, is the flexibility built in, is that a new feature?
It would be.
Okay,
Yep.
then my question is smooth then. Okay, thank you, but I appreciate the work of the commission, and this is exciting to me.
Julia.
Mike, I know that people have to keep these up. So how often, how do we know that they're keeping them up? Is there?
We typically do an audit every 5 years, and we'll pull the plans and then actually go out and field verify which plantings are still alive and which ones are dead.
So it doesn't
Not
have to
there
be
anymore.
complaint based then?
We'll
You
do
guys
that.
are actually
We'll
checking.
do that as well too. If somebody submits a complaint, we'll certainly investigate that.
Thank you.
So just one question and comment. One, I think the graphics a lot better on here, which I always appreciate. Someone that lives in a lot of these different cities, graphics are nice, and it's a better. I think it's a better representation, even though it's kind of the same, just clear. And the second one is more like the question. So you gave Lightcast building as an example on the east side of the building. So that would be the flexibility, as you talked about, where it comes into place.
Yeah.
And that's clearly case by case basis, right? As it comes up, because there's no way that this can predict every scenario that's going to happen within the built environment. Okay. Yeah. No, thank you for explaining that and giving us some real examples to walk through. So great job to all involved. Thanks, Mike.
I'll say something.
Okay, good.
I think this is my third time seeing this proposal, being the council liaison on P&Z and seeing it work through up. And last week, I think it was admin, right? And yeah, and just again, kudos to you, kudos to P&Z. I think for getting this right and kind of adding that flexibility into it. So well done.
And well done to P&Z too.
Yeah,
Indeed.
absolutely.
Can we make a motion at this time? Okay, I'd like to make a motion. I move that we approve the ordinance under suspension of the rules regarding 3 complete and separate readings, and then it be read by title and published by summary.
Second. Bryce can have it.
Bryce gets it. Okay. Julia,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Okay, that one passes, and we've got ordinance 2024-20. Okay, ordinance 2024-20, an ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for the amendment of Moscow City Code Title 4, Chapter 6, Section 6-5, providing that the amendment of buffer yard requirements, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, and providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from the date of its passage, approval, and publication according to law. So, done and done on that one. Next up is the City of Moscow Financial Policy Update from Bill Belknap tonight.
Yes, I'm not Sarah Banks. Sarah was ill this evening, so I'll be covering this item for her tonight. The city's existing financial policy was adopted by a resolution in 2011. So it was resolution 2011-11. And the finance department over the course of last year has been reviewing that policy to ensure its consistency with Idaho code, with GFOA best practices, and also to ensure that the policy was consistent with the city's current fund structure. So there are a number of updates that I'll kind of walk through this evening that have been made that are being presented to you today. So throughout the updates, you'll see that we are inserting references to Idaho code whenever there's a statutory obligation or requirement of the treasurer. We did include that reference. So we were modifying previously with respect to monthly reporting. The policy stated that it would be a monthly revenue report would be prepared by the finance department no later than 10 days after the end of each month and presented to the mayor, city council, and city administrator. Technically, the requirement under statute is 60 days from the end of the month, and depending upon when that first committee meeting that might be reviewing that, it's been difficult for us to meet that 10-day standard. So it's just being modified to be consistent with state law that states that report shall be presented and provided to the council no less than 60 days upon the conclusion of any month. So just making that consistent with state law. There's an update on expenditures. Again, prior to, since the adoption of the existing policy in 2011, the city has adopted a purchasing and procurement policy. So there's a reference that's been added to this document just to ensure that all employees will adhere to that policy. And again, another modification in a different location. Now, rather than revenue report, this would be addressed in the expenditure report, and that would also be provided again within 60 days from the close of the month, which is consistent with state code standard for Idaho 50208. Has also been updated to be more consistent. City treasurer shall provide and publish a quarterly full statement of each separate account, fund appropriation for the year to date, and balances and debits and credits no less than 30 days from the end of each quarter. Again, that's just a statutory requirement. And so this has been modified just to be consistent with that. So the language is consistent. And then the other item that's been updated is to just identify that the city treasurer will present all claims for payment to the city council prior to payment of those claims. There are some exceptions to that on things that are traditional, have a fixed deadline. So employee payroll, standard payroll deductions, paid elective programs, bond payments, banks and service fees, credit card accounts, anything owed to the State Tax Commission, the IRS, ICRIMP, Department of Labor, and any other unforeseen payments, unforeseen and urgent payments that could be authorized by the mayor. So again, essentially all claims for payment will be coming to council prior to payment, but there are some exceptions for these standard ongoing activities. We updated the fund balance policy. We don't have a standalone arts fund any longer as part of the Rec and Culture Fund, so that reference was removed. We added the Moscow School District Community Playfields Fund because a new fund was created since the 2011 policy. And identified a target of an operating reserve of 2 months for that fund. We also added the Stormwater Fund, which is new since the 2011 adoption, and identified the target operating reserve of 3 months for that fund, and then added new language related to the creation of new funds and where there'll be no reserve requirement until sufficient revenue surplus is established to fund a fund balance with creating a deficit. So you can't have that operating fund balance if you have a new fund that takes time for it to accumulate that money. So just identifying that for any new funds. The Stormwater Fund has been one that has been in that boat for the last 2 years as well. So that's really the end of the updates. I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have.
Nobody?
We've been over this in admin committee. I know it's maybe not the most exciting thing. Sorry, Bill.
Nope.
But it's really good that you guys continue to update these policies and make sure that they're all just exactly how we need them to be. So thank you for doing that.
I'd like to move that we approve the updated City of Moscow financial policy.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's go. Bryce.
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
Okay. That one is done. Next up is procurement and purchasing policy amendment, again starring Bill Belknap.
Yeah, so while we're on the exciting topics of policies. So as I mentioned, the city did in 2023 adopt a procurement and purchasing policy. We'd had some kind of piecemeal policies that had been adopted, but this was a consolidated document that provided a bunch of background information. So that was adopted through resolution 2023-024. That policy included guidance on legal obligations and requirements. So for public officials, for public employees, it identified employee purchase authority limits depending upon the relative position the employee holds. It also identified employee contract signatory authority limits. And also established standards related to the use of vendor charge accounts and credit cards as well. Over the course of last year, we've identified a couple additional items that we'd like to add to the policy, and that's really what we're doing this evening. So really, it's just 2 new sections that are being proposed, no real amendments other than changing title. The existing policy referred to the city supervisor title. That title has now been changed to city administrator, so that's been changed throughout the document, as well as any deputies that were referenced. But there's a new section 2.8 that identifies limitations on certain expenses. And this is really intended just to kind of document current practices. So there are really 3 items identified in this area. The first includes emergency response events. And this is it focuses largely on purchase of meals with public funds for public employees. So the first category is emergency response events. So it's not uncommon that we have either a fire event, it could be a water main break, it could be a sewer main failure, or some other extended snow event that in order to maintain continuous operations to respond to that event, we need to find food for the employees that are working late hours or through the night. So this includes a statement that allows department supervisors to make reasonable food and drink purchases for responding employees to allow them work continuously to address the emergency event. So just identifies that we would not otherwise be purchasing employees food. So it's just, this is providing an exception to when that could occur during those emergency events. The second is we do occasionally have departments engage in team building activities. We do recognize the benefits of improved morale, increased satisfaction, productivity of occasional team building activities. And this is just providing the opportunity to do that upon the approval of the city administrator. So just kind of formalizing that process as well. The last remaining item really is related to meals and refreshments in regard to meetings. So it provides guidance of when it's appropriate for public funds to be utilized for meals and refreshments associated with city meetings. There are a number of categories identified where it's just not a normal staff meeting. It's a special training event. It's something that's integral to the operation. Let me just walk through that real quick. So it's 2/8. So, it talks about this purpose of meetings to conduct official city business or provide training to city employees or city officials. The meals are an integral part of the business meeting or training session. The meals or training is a special situation or occasion outside of normal daily business of city employees. City funds may not be used to provide meals for routine staff meetings, routine department meetings, or any event deemed to be social in nature other than city employee recognition events authorized by the mayor. And that approval is obtained in writing in advance, and the amount paid is in accordance with per diem schedules. Tips are limited no more than 15%, and we have to have itemized receipts for any actual costs associated with it. So just putting some guidance and some boundaries on that. The other new section would be section 4.7 that addresses donations, sponsorships, and other financial contributions to outside organizations. So this would be anytime the city's request to either waive a fee associated with the event or to provide a financial contribution. So the policy is intended to provide guidance regarding requests for those financial assistance to outside organizations and entities. This is important because the city is limited by the state constitution from either lending our credit in any manner or really providing any public funds for any private purposes. So it's something that we have to be careful in evaluating. The policy states the city will only consider donations or sponsorship of programs or services that provide a service the city legally could provide, but chooses not to, or it's a service that complements a service the city is providing. It is aligned with and supports the city's mission and purpose, and it provides an identifiable public benefit. The policy creates kind of a framework for a written application form and review process. It kind of breaks it up into small requests that would be $500 or less that would be reviewed by the city administrator. And then any request for more than 500 would be reviewed and approved by the city council. So it just kind of sets up the framework for that and gives some criteria by which myself and the city council might review those requests. The policy also does require a written agreement with the entity that's requesting the funding if it's received that limits the use of the funds to those uses approved by the city and requires repayment in the event the use of the funds or the funds were used for any other purpose. So it's just a repayment agreement. So that's it for the policy. So there's just two sections we'd like to add to that purchasing policy. I'd be happy to answer any questions the council might have.
No questions?
I've got more of a statement than a question.
Sure.
Follow suit. Last week in admin, we talked through this, and I think we were all in agreement that this should go on potentially consent, but then we were like, well, actually, let's, talk about it with all of us up here just so we're all on the same page. But we were supportive, and I still echo that same sentiment this week. So thanks for bringing it to all of us this time.
Bill, if it's not a hassle, could you show the slide again?
Sure.
It was the second to last slide.
Second to last.
Maybe one more back. Sorry, third one. Maybe I saw something that.
We can keep
No. I think it's.
we're about to begin.
Yeah, I think it's to my bed.
Subject?
It's my bedtime. But no, so I just have a scenario, and this isn't me trying to come up with hard questions. It's just we've had some emails back and forth that we'd ask more questions, and this is a question that I had when reading it, and then I thought I saw something, did not see anything, but. If you take the example of how we have the matrix of like where it says $25,000 to $75,000, right?
Okay, so we're,
Yeah, right. I'm just trying to,
so you're looking at the
it's on page,
page 11,
yes, it'd be page
the
11.
city contract agreement authorization execution matrix?
Yeah.
Okay.
So does that have to, I guess what scenario would, and this isn't trusting the city administrator or the mayor, but where it wouldn't have to come before a council? Like, I see that being like a pretty extreme example or emergency. I'm just trying to gather what that entails, or have I misunderstood something?
So that's for the existing table here. So this was intended to identify if there are budgeted expenses of a certain level that different, either a deputy or myself could sign a contract for something the council has already authorized. So
Gotcha.
let's just say it was asphalt patching as part of the budget. It's a $20,000 contract. So to avoid every little contract to come to the council, essentially the delegating authority for the deputies is a budgeted expense under 25,000, they can authorize and they can sign that agreement. So it's not uncommon that we have a PO or a paver doing a patching job of 20,000. If it's budgeted, it's within the budget, then that individual can sign that agreement without having to have every little contract come to the council.
Come through council.
And then if it's not a budget expense under 25,000, I can approve it with the mayor's approval. And that funding must be identified. If it's not budgeted, how it's going to be paid for, and with the mayor's approval, then it won't have to come to the council. As it starts to step up between 25 and 75, if it's budgeted, I can authorize it with no other consultation. If it's a non-budgeted, the mayor can authorize it with additional approval from the council if funding's identified. And that just kind of works its way up there to where 75 to 150, the mayor can authorize it alone if it's a budget expense. If it's not, then the council has to approve it. And then over 150, it has to come to the council.
Okay. And sorry, I'm going down a rabbit path now. So it's another question.
Sure.
So with the code that I'm familiar with, Idaho State Codes 672320.
Is that design professionals?
Yeah, design
Yep.
professionals.
Yep. So that's on another page.
And that's like right below it. And so I'm just trying to gauge with that for us to get into a contract with another professional. In this case, it's design and engineering and all that stuff. But in between the 25 and 75 I'm just trying to think it really could be anything, but I don't know. I guess I didn't catch that in my reading. I don't know how I feel about that
But it's already in the budget, right?
So for professional services, anything under 50 can be directly contracted and
Right,
does
and-
not have to go through the qualification-based selection process.
Yeah.
So under 50, if it's
It's just from the short list though, right? If you have a selected, right?
So we have a pre-qualified roster
Yeah.
that every 3 years we advertise for engineering services. We pre-qualify firms. And so if you're pre-qualified, then we've essentially done the qualification-based
Right.
selection process in advance, and then we can just issue task orders to the individual firms. The contract execution authority will still stand even though they've been pre-qualified. So the 25, under 25, the 25, 75, 75 to 150 or over 150, budgeted or unbudgeted, those approval authorities will still remain regardless of whether it's a design professional or not.
Yeah.
That just tells us what we need to go through to select the design professional. The 50,000, under 50 or 50 or above just defines when you have to go through the RFQ.
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah, I understand that.
who can sign to what level will still be held to be consistent with the matrix on page 11. Because we were having, just to throw the scenario out, we were going to have a task order for the water reclamation facility that was going to be $1.8 million. That technically, prior to adoption of this policy, staff could just issue it. And so I wanted visibility into those larger expenditures. So that's why we created this table that essentially anything over 150, the council's going to see.
Yeah.
And the council's going to authorize those. But maybe the smaller ones, the council doesn't need to see every small contract, so long as it's a budgeted expense, or that I can work with the mayor to identify the funding if it's unbudgeted. So we actually constrained the signatory authority of staff significantly when we adopted this in 23, because it was essentially any task order could be just authorized by
Signed
staff
By staff, right?
and not come to the council. And so this actually puts some stricter controls on what scales of contracts would come to the council.
Right, and I appreciate it, and I'm now following and kind of seeing I'm connected. I got my crayon out and I've connected the dots. But
Yeah, the table, so the tables on like
uh,
page 12 and page 13 are
Right,
just really
right.
guidance to city employees to know what procurement process they need to go through, depending upon the expenditure or the nature of the services or the goods. Those tables just they're really more for staff to know, hey, I can take a quick look on this policy and we'll update this as any of those procurement thresholds are updated by the legislature, but they know, hey, up to this amount can be direct hired without having any quotes, or I have to get 3 quotes in this case, or I have to go to formal bid. Those tables are really only providing guidance. It's just essentially reciting what the statutory requirements are in a convenient way for staff to be able to access. The purchasing authority table on page 11 just gives that level of authority so that we can deal with smaller scale ongoing day-to-day activities without having to have everything come
Yeah,
to the council.
it makes, I mean, I understand it just makes things smoother. I guess I should have probably led with this. My over concern is like, I am glad that that's a thing. I'm glad that we have a table to, like, it just makes a better policy. But like if something's approved and like, even though we have money in the budget and we can't find it and the mayor can do that, whether it's this council or a council in 20 years, when we're going over like the budget, is there a way for like me as a council, we'll just use me as an example because I'm asking their questions, but is there a way for me to see that at the end of the year, or is there a way for me to?
So the council is going to see all requests for payment, all claims for payment.
Right.
You may not see that contract. If you'd like to have a list of all contracts that have been executed over the course of the year, we could certainly provide a report for that. But you probably won't see that if there are contracts or agreements that are under that $25,000 amount. That the council.
And the 25 is not my concern. It's the 25 to 75 ish. Like,
So we have the 25 to 75. Okay. So for unbudgeted, so
Yeah.
the council is going to have to see that because the mayor would be the signatory, but it would require the additional approval of the council if
Okay.
it's a unbudgeted expense. So anything in that 25 to 75 that's not budgeted would come to the council.
Gotcha.
Anything
Okay.
that's 25 to 75 that is budgeted, I can authorize.
And I think it's clear, just me making sure it is. I just want to double check that I'm understanding the process of it. And I have the question's not doubting staff, mayor, anyone else. It's just a long-term, like I'm thinking when I'm, 6 feet under.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's not anytime soon for the record, but it just, that it's a good,
Yeah, so anything in that category, if it's unbudgeted, that council didn't plan for it in adoption of the budget would come to the council. And we would come to you with a funding plan since it wasn't adopted in the budget of how we would underexpend other areas to be able to fund that activity.
okay. Thank you so much, Bill, for answering it. Appreciate it.
Anything else?
I would say that I'm glad that there are capable and willing staffs in the world who will wander through this mundane loveliness for me, because I don't want to get my crayon out like you do, Drew. But I really do appreciate the work on this, and I love the consistency with the code. So I would move that we approve the proposed resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'm guessing no further discussion. So Gina,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Sandra.
Aye.
Okay, great. So that takes us to the end of the regular agenda, and we're on to reports. Gina.
Oh, thank you. As you can see, the Tree Commission was here tonight doing their thing, telling us about all their good work of the last year. Similar to kind of the movement that happened, I'm going to say it was maybe the beginning of last year, where we don't do meetings for meeting's sake. Both the Tree and the Fair and Affordable Housing Commission don't have enough items on their agenda for this month, so they're opting not to have a meeting. I will pine away, but that's me. And
Oh, bad.
I did not do that on purpose. I wish I was sharp like that, but no. And they are not my toys or my pets. They are my people, my tree people.
I like pets. but
Um,
that's it.
The Building Code Advisory Committee met this past, was it Tuesday? Cody, I'm looking right at you. I don't always sound like this, and I don't have I don't have a glamorous life that allows this to happen regularly, other than I got a cold. And so I missed the meeting. But they informed me that they began discussions on potential changes to the building, both the building and the energy codes. And I anticipate I'll have a better update for you next month. But that's all that I know, sir.
Okay. Sandra.
This was my slow 10 days, which was just fine. I got to participate in the downtown trick or treating. Got to hand out some treats with some friends of mine, which was fun. And I had historic preservation. They talked a lot about the Orchid Awards, which are next Thursday at 7 at the 1912 Center. So thank you, Mike, for sharing that with me because I couldn't remember the date. I had to write it on my hand.
Oh, that's
That's what I was looking at.
What is the next Thursday's date?
Well, I don't have that written on my hand. I'm
14th.
sorry.
14.
14th. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's all I have.
Wow. Scooting along. Julia.
I don't really have anything to report.
Julie's not
That you
been
can
busy.
remember.
I've been busy.
It's been a blur.
If I did something in the last 2 weeks, I probably wouldn't be able to remember it right now. So I'm so sorry. But
We'll give you a hall pass. Drew.
Yeah, so let's see, the 30th at City Hall, we had McDonald Elementary School third graders here. And so I was here with Art, and I think I have a picture of Art with like at least 80 third graders in his office. I'm not even joking you. And thank you to the staff that were patient because they were not quiet. And my daughter was the loudest amongst them. But they loved coming in, seeing how they thought the bench was cool. They thought everything was great. And I've never had so many people call me famous, and I had to break it to them that world famous in Moscow, Idaho is not that famous guy. It was great. And so it was great to participate and teach some kids about civics and civic duty. And then also during this meeting, I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought last Monday was a fifth Monday. And so I did not attend the admin committee. And I put this together since I've been sitting here. And so I don't know, I was just really excited for Halloween. So thank you for Bryce for stepping in. It sounds like, I'm like, what? I don't miss meetings. And I got on my calendar and I'd missed a meeting. So we kept on talking about admin and I'm like, we didn't meet. And so anyway, we did. And so thanks for those that stepped in, and glad I could review the meeting I missed today. But, and then other than that, Pathways Commission, we're not going to be meeting this month, which I really appreciate when there's not business to discuss. I don't find it a purposed one. It's great to talk, but we don't need to do it with staff's time. And two, if there's nothing to talk about, then let's give that 2 hours back to people's week and save time. So won't be doing that. And also with Halloween on Thursday, we didn't have Parks and Rec as well. So I had a pretty minimal, but I will be at the next admin building. I commit to it. So.
Bryce, did you do anything?
Well, last Monday I filled in unexpectedly at the admin committee meeting. Came in to sit in the galley and it's getting closer, and then
Wore your cape.
Filled in.
You're
Yeah,
wearing
wore a
cape.
cape. Yeah,
Thank
filled in, and I was happy to impersonate the famous Drew Davis. So, yeah. But other than that, pretty light with regards to commissions. P&Z was canceled on the 23rd. Human rights is in a couple of weeks. Yeah, just kind of doing things out in Moscow, which is, we all do that down there, trick-or-treating for downtown, which was really fun just to see the community and see the kids are so cute just with their costumes. They're so proud, and they should be. And it's just inspiring.
And Bryce makes a really great banana.
Thank you. I was proud of that banana costume that I was wearing. And then the other thing that I did last week that's not necessarily connected to the commissions, but I was asked to speak at the Sigma Chi fraternity scholarship dinner. And they invited me as the guest speaker. A former student reached out to me, and there was about 70 men there, and I spoke on habits for success, and they entrusted me with giving a message that related to that, and it went really well, and it just felt very, very cool to be invited to that, and invited to both speak as an instructor at U of I, but also as a city councilor here in Moscow, and finding that bridge between the two was really great. I was really grateful for. So it's been a fun couple weeks, but also it was nice to have a little bit of downtime too. So,
Okay, I'm up, I guess. Tomorrow's the 5th. If you haven't voted, do
Do
so.
you mean it's something going on tomorrow?
wait,
There is.
tomorrow? No.
Unless you've already voted, in that case, just sleep in.
Someone send me a text reminder.
Yeah, jump right after. And to tag on to the third graders visit, it was actually more like a third grade self-guided mayhem. Is what it turned
Not wrong.
into.
Yeah.
What a mobile riot that was. It was so fun, but so loud.
They could have took City Hall if they wanted.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Let's see, last week, Haley and I were down at the Association of Idaho Cities meeting in Boise for the board meeting and worked out a lot of in-house just housekeeping stuff that needed doing, and got that taken care of, got set up for the incoming legislative season. December 2nd is the legislative review. If anybody's interested, you can show up down there for presentations by the legislators on items that they're looking to bring forward, and some interested groups who are bringing in items that they're interested in. So it's kind of a preview of what's going to happen during the January to March legislative session. Also went to the airport board, and things are going pretty well out there. Load factors, which is the number of seats on a plane that are filled by revenue paying passengers, not just people riding along for crew flying from one place to another to be better positioned. But the Seattle flights were over 86% full, and the Boise flights were 77%. And they judge flights to be profitable anytime there's more than 60% full.
Nice.
So that's going well. Interviewing for concessionaires, a group from back east wants to extend their businesses out to the west, so they're interested. We'll see if they actually follow through. And the airport board is launching into the strategic plan, which will set the airport up for the next 20 years of growth and use. And if an item is not on the strategic plan, the FAA won't fund it. So at the end of this plan, you've got to have things pretty locked down. Also met with Scott Green and discussed items of mutual interest. Chief among them was the Metropolitan Statistical Area designation, which has big implications for us if we can pull it off. It's good for access to federal funds directly for transit and transportation issues. It also makes 230-something thousand cities look a whole lot bigger, because an MSA would put a line around us and make the whole area look like we total 85, 90,000 people, which is a lot more interesting when it comes to getting interest from airlines for more flights, commercial development, companies, retailers moving into town. So it's a pretty big deal, and we're going to be pursuing that. And one last item, this meeting seems to have gone on for about an hour longer than I thought it was going to last. So spring forward, fall back, and all that stuff. So the clock needs to get reset. And that's all I have. Anything from over there?
Nothing from staff this evening.
Okay, should we adjourn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds like a motion, a second, and all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.